Okay, so what are dialectics? Dialectics relate to the synthesis of opposites. So, for example, instead of thinking in black or white terms, you can try seeing the shades of grey in between the black and white. In other words, practice being flexible in your thinking so that you can find something in the middle. Consider if you're in conflict, find something to agree about according to the eyes of the other person, so looking at other perspectives. Or instead of delaying, procrastinating on a particular task, what you can do is make the very first step by the tiniest of moves. So just take one small step forward. You could also make a list of 5 or 10 positive qualities that you or someone else that you are sometimes down on that you may have. You can sometimes default to the negative aspects of ourselves or situations. And what I ask you to consider is looking at the other side of a dialectic. You can ask yourself, what is the hidden opportunity in a particular problem that you may have? Some people calling this finding the silver lining, or what strengths, resiliences, or resources do you have? So you look at your strengths and you turn to them to see what your next moves can be. You can look at what skills you can practice and what particular things you can actually get better at so that you can practice your coping skills or to help you manage a crisis or what you interpret as a crisis and aim to be more skillful. Looking at other perspectives becomes a great benefit here. There is no such thing as an absolute truth or position that accounts for absolutely all perspectives. There will always be variances. Be flexible. Think about someone else's ideas or perspectives that don't agree with you. And so find the kernel of truth in those ideas or perspectives from that person's point of view. This helps you exercise a different mindset. Consider, is there a middle ground? And remember, there is always gradual changes. They are not necessarily abrupt and dramatic changes. Think of a problem that you have, for instance. What behaviors would other people notice you doing if your problem was less severe or even resolved? And what you can do is you can begin practicing these behaviors so that you can start making those gradual changes. And some examples of this include going for a daily walk if you are in a low mood at a particular part of the day, say for example in the morning or the evenings, or introducing an extra glass of water if you wanted to become the person that drinks 2 liters of water in a day instead of making one huge leap and drinking 2 liters when once upon a time you were not drinking any clear water as your fluids. Then you start with one extra cup at a particular time of the day, make it part of your routine. So it's one small gradual change at a time. And then there's the exception rule. This is a great technique to jumpstart positive change. And you can think back and to all of your behaviors, for instance, and see what helpful or unhelpful or healthy or unhealthy behaviors that you do when life is actually either going good, going great, not going so good, or neutral. If you can identify the behaviors that you do when you're actually feeling good and life is going well for you, isolate those behaviors, be aware of them, and do more of them. For example, following a schedule or a timetable, being proactive with looking after yourself and self-care, or connecting more with family, friends, or other social support. The point here is do more of what works. Now, let's move to what's not a problem. It's easy to be preoccupied with our problems. And so making a list of problems that you actually don't have, while it seems like ridiculous to do that, it actually helps with awareness of or compartmentalizing a fine line between what is a problem, what is not a problem. And also sometimes when people think that their world and their day is full of problems, making a list of what's not a problem helps ease that feeling. For example, I don't have chicken pox. I'm not being hunted down by anyone. I don't have to eat insects. I'm not kidnapped, etc., etc. They may seem like ridiculous ideas, but they are also truths. Practicing compassion for others. It is easy to feel anger, to feel disgust, and other powerful emotions towards people, resentment, disappointment, etc., especially to those who we experience rudeness on their behalf, or we find that they're being mean or they're using less skilled behaviors of their own. In such situations, it really can be helpful to practice compassion by imagining what circumstances could lead them to be so unkind at that particular time. It's not an excuse for their behavior, but it's changing the way we're operating and our perceptions and our interpretations, and therefore we may change the way we're feeling on the inside, take things a little less personal. So what kind of happy life exists for such people who are mean, rude, etc.? The next time that you do feel upset by somebody, or that you do feel that you've been wronged by them, try practicing compassion and see what happens. Flexibility. Sometimes we do cause a lot of needless misery for ourselves, where we can be too rigid in our thoughts and our feelings. And while we don't want to go to other extremes, there is a lot to be said for learning how to be flexible. Sometimes going with the flow is a nicer, calmer, easier option. Learning to consider other perspectives and practice being more flexible with situations, moving with realities rather than trying to impose your will on everything. People who learn to bend are much more flexible and they don't crumble down and break. So I hope you enjoyed this short psych ed on what are dialectics. My name is Amanda Dounis and I'm from the Positive Thinking Clinic. Thank you.